Hello, my name's David and welcome to my new van build. I've been on the road for about 7 years. Starting in 2017 when I got my first Sprinter, I've done 6 van builds since then, so I've had just about every opportunity to make every mistake possible, figure out what works and what doesn't, and yeah, just learn a ton along the way. My newest van, this Sprinter 4x4, is by far my favorite build and easily the most comfortable I've ever been out on the road. Let me give you a little tour and show you why. Let's dive right into it. First, I'll show you guys the outside of the van. The van is a 2019 Mercedes Sprinter 4x4 with the 3-liter turbo diesel engine. I bought this van used in the summer of 2023 at 41,000 miles. I saw it for sale on the side of the road, so I figured I'd just stop and check it out, see what the deal with it was. It already had the wheels and tires on it, so it looked super sharp, and yeah, I just kind of couldn't resist stopping. And then when I saw the actual price of it, I knew that it was like an epic deal and I couldn't pass it up, so I had to give the guy a call and it all worked out. Walking around it, you can see just like how clean the line work on the 4x4 Sprinters are. I've had a few Ford Transits and I honestly just think that the Sprinters look way better, and it's kind of just like an ultimate ride for road tripping around the country. A lot of people ask me if it's lifted. I always have to explain to them that the stock 4x4 Sprinter comes with about a 4-inch lift from the factory. You can lift this more if you want. There's a bunch of options from Van Compass. You can go about 2 inches higher than stock, but I'm pretty happy with the stock ride height. As far as modifications that I've done to the outside, I actually just got new tires for it. I just wanted to get some fresh rubber on there before this big road trip. Another super important upgrade that I did was adding these Van Compass rear shocks. What this does is it really helps control the body roll and just the overall ride quality of the van. Getting to the back of the van, I did add this rear tire carrier. You can't fit this size tire in the stock spare tire carrier, so it just makes sense to add it to the rear door. And then it's actually like way easier to get to if you end up having a flat tire off-roading or something. This rear tire carrier is made by Flatline Van Co, and it went on super easily. The tires that I went with are 245, 75, 17 Cooper Discover AT3s. I've had these tires on multiple van builds and they've treated me really well, never had any issues, so I figured might as well just continue along with these. As you can see, the tires have a little bit of sidewall dirt on them. That's because it's been super muddy and I've been going on some crazy trails out here in Utah, and these tires haven't failed me yet. Another thing I added was these little slider windows in the side, and what these do is they create an airflow for your vent fan. If you don't have side windows, you end up with like minimal airflow in your van, so you kind of need something just to open it up a bit and give you some light, give you some extra added airflow. These specific windows are actually AMA half sliders, and basically you just cut a hole and then just glue them right in. Another mod I did to the outside was this black sliding door rail. This one was just purely for looks. There's no functionality to it. I just think it looks way better on a blacked out van to have a blacked out rail rather than to have an old silver beat up looking rail sticking out. Up top, we have a Flatline Van Co standard roof rack. This thing is super sleek, it looks good. The reason I run a roof rack is so that I can mount all my solar panels to it and just have a much more like secure platform for those to be mounted to. That covers it for the outside. Let's take it on inside and I'll show you how I built this thing out. Here's the layout. We have my Dometic refrigerator right here, galley right there, bed, and then bikes. I think this layout works really well for a 144 van. For me, it works perfectly. I know layouts are a massive debate in van life, especially in the 144 van. There's a lot of different ways you can do it, but with me being a mountain bike rider, it was super critical to have my bed over the garage in the back, and then I put my galley right behind the driver's seat. And what that does is it kind of leaves an open floor plan so that you can still put cargo in here from time to time, or bike gear, whatever, you know. There's a lot of room, a lot of options. One thing that's super unique to my van is that I built everything to be modular, and every single piece of equipment in here can come out within 5 minutes. The reason I did this was if I ever wanted to turn it back into a cargo van, or let's say I get a new van and I want to keep my bed, keep my cabinets for the next van, I can pull it all out. I really just wanted to have a ton of options, so I built everything super intentional for that reason. The way that I was able to make it modular is by using this stuff called L-track, and I pretty much have L-track everywhere in the van. It's what the bed is supported on, it's what my electrical box is bolted into. Behind my galley, there's even L-track right there. Now that we know everything's modular, let's get back to the tour and I'll show you what went into this thing. First up, we have my kitchen galley. This galley was custom built out of Baltic birch. It actually took me about a month of construction to get it to a point where I was happy with it, and I gotta say I'm really happy with it. This is one of the pieces that I'm most proud of in this van, and it's probably the best piece of woodworking I've ever done. On the left side, we have a sink that has a removable cutting board. It's about 9 inches deep, has a head that comes down, so it works really well for doing all the dishes in the van. I don't have hot water, but I figured that was something I could live without, and I could always heat some water up on the stove. On the right side of the galley, we have a built-in stovetop that's ran off propane. This thing has been super nice, although I try not to cook anything that's like smelly in here. I try to do all that outside, but it's been really nice to have like an actual cooktop that you don't have to set up every single day. It also has a cool blue light to match the blue theme of the van. The countertop is a laminate material sitting on top of a 1/2 inch sheet of Baltic birch. The reason I did this is to keep the weight down. A lot of people do like a butcher block. The butcher block is really heavy and I just didn't want my van to weigh that much. And you never know what's going to become a projectile, so I was just thinking lightweight is going to be the key to this van build. In the cabinets, behind these nice latches that keep everything shut, we have kind of an all-purpose junk drawer. Then basically the rest of the galley is just dedicated to food preparation other than my toiletries right here. In here, more food prep. We have the coffee stuff. Moving on to the next one, we have yet another layer of food preparation stuff. Food prep in the van is incredibly difficult. It's such a tiny space, so limited. So you have to get creative and have a dialed kitchen setup that works for the kind of foods that you're gonna cook. On this side is my water cabinet. We have the clean tank right here. We have the gray tank right here. This is on a quick release and this just pulls right out. Then down here we just have some extra propane. I actually rigged up this little propane system for my stove up here. And it's really nice because it's just compact. It's got a shut off. It's got a regulator. As far as water capacity goes, I have 6 gallons of clean and 6 gallons of gray. I also have this extra tank that I can simply just swap in for the clean tank there and then empty the gray tank. I actually have 12 gallons of fresh water when you factor in the extra tank, which is optional. Moving over to the refrigerator, I have a Dometic CFX 55, and this thing is packed to the limits. You can make ice cubes with it, but it's mostly just a refrigerator. And yeah, it works super well, no issues. Moving overhead, we have the Van Essential storage cabinet, also on L-track. But this is also where I just like keep all of my dry goods, some fruit, some bananas, cereal, just various things that need a place in the van. And then over here, we have all of my plastic Tupperware, reusable. And then we have basically my technology box. This is where my computer lives. It's really nice that these all zip up. And then they also like have this system that kind of latches this down so it's not hanging. It's really essential to have a secure system that either latches or zips up top, because in situations where you're off-roading or you hit a curb, whatever it is, the top of your van can rock super bad, and whatever's in those upper cabinets can just get rocket shipped across the van. One time before I had a more dialed setup, I had a jar of spaghetti go flying across the van, and it was full and it exploded, glass and spaghetti everywhere. That was truly a van life nightmare. This brings us back to the sleeping area of the van. I have a queen, actually I have a short queen mattress, and the short queen mattress ran long ways is a really good option for me because I'm 6'2", and there's just no way I'm sleeping sideways comfortably. I've tried that before, it never works. So I just bit the bullet and we went with a long ways bed here. The bed's a little messy right now, but I have 2 blankets. My guitar kind of lives in the bed. Also my camera bag kind of lives in the bed. I set them down somewhere at night, but in the daytime, that's where they hang out. I also have my riding gear bag and a tote full of camping gear and spare bike parts. In my upper soft cabinet, we have all of my clothing. We have pants on the bottom, shirts on the top, and then in the back is just kind of a bunch of spare stuff, some paper plates, some extra towels, extra supplies that are kind of out of reach unless you need them. The reason I went with these soft cabinets from Van Essential was, like I said before, I completely nerded out on the weight of this thing. I'll share the final weight later, but basically I wanted to keep the weight, especially in the upper parts of the van, I wanted to keep it as light as possible for drivability. Some people load their vans down to the point that they just don't drive good. I think that's a conversation that needs to be had a lot more in van life. We should be weighing our vans and making sure that they're under the maximum weight capacity of the van, because a lot of people go over and they don't even know. Van Essential did a really good job keeping the weight down on these things and making them flexible, quiet, and really it's just an overall awesome product. Next, I want to talk about electrical. For this van, I was going to do a super small portable system. As things played out, I ended up getting a sponsorship by Dometic, which was awesome because then they were able to provide me with an air conditioner up there. So with that said, I couldn't do a portable power system, so I had to go big with the electrical system and build it myself. I eventually settled on a 300 amp hour Renogy system. Renogy was the clear winner for me because I've used them in all of my other van builds. The customer service team is always super helpful, and yeah, it's just, I couldn't pass it up again because they seem to be the most affordable and reasonable product. I chose to go with 300 amp hours because it was a good balance of cost versus effectiveness, and this is by far the biggest system I've ever had in any of my vans. The only reason to go bigger would be air conditioning, but I figured I probably won't be using it that much. The system also has a 2000 watt inverter and a 60 amp DC to DC charger for when the solar isn't firing and you just need to get a quick charge. The system is completely tucked away in this battery box. I built this just to keep everything safe and enclosed, and it does come apart pretty easily in case of an emergency, but I also made sure that my master shutoff was on the outside, as well as my solar shutoff and my monitor, so I could keep track of what's going on inside of there. Then right here, this is a DC to DC charger shutoff. So I typically just leave that off unless I actually need the DC to DC charging. And yeah, it just kind of hangs out. Then down here we have my 120 volt, 2000 watt inverter switch. So I turn that on as necessary. I really don't use it too often unless I'm charging camera gear or my toothbrush. That's about the only things I use it for, honestly. As far as solar goes, I have 380 watts of Zamp Solar panels. This was another sponsorship that I picked up. Those guys are super cool and they were willing to support the van. They liked what I was doing. The Obsidian series that I went with is blacked out, so it looks super sharp on my blacked out van. And yeah, just overall really impressed with the quality of them, and I've had no issues so far. It's getting kind of dark out, so to maximize the light, I'm gonna turn my swivel seats around and show you how I do that because the sun is coming in this way. I do have swivels on both seats, but lately I've only been turning the driver's seat around because my passenger seat seems to be a good spot to hold my bag. Here's how you do it. So first, you have to push the steering wheel in, and then I have these little buttons over here set up. Position 1 is driving, position 2 is swiveling, and position 3 is once it's swiveled, it's a nice comfy spot. So I'm gonna go ahead and press 2. So you can see the seat moves itself forward. You grab this little red lever, give the seat a little push, then you turn it right around and press number 3. That puts the seat in a nice, comfy leaned back position. It's probably a little easier with the mechanical seats, but we're making the best of it, and these seats are also heated, so can't really complain too much about the process. That brings me to the next thing I want to talk about. My van is fully climate controlled, hot or cold. So I have a Webasto Airtop 2000 STC diesel heater, and that thing has been fantastic. I got it tuned in Flagstaff, Arizona for high elevation. Keeps the van at about 65 degrees every night, no matter how cold it is. Highly recommend the Webasto Airtop 2000 STC. I also have a Dometic RTX 2000 12-volt air conditioner. That unit is above my bed, and like I said, that was a sponsored item from Dometic, but I'm extremely stoked to try it out this summer. I think it's going to be a game changer for van life. I put the air conditioner right over my bed. If I have to run it, I can run it on low. I won't have to worry about cooling off the entire van. I think it'll work really well just above my bed to keep me cool. Kind of running out of light. I think we're going to have to pick back up with the rest of the tour in the morning. All right, we're back at it. It's the next day. It's actually about 20 hours later. We rode bikes all day. And yeah, now picking back up with the van tour. Bringing it around to the back side of the van. This is the garage. This is where I keep all my bikes, all my tools, you know, just all the stuff you might need out on the road. Let's take a look. Starting with the right side, we have a light switch over here. They're extremely bright, kind of gives you some light at night. Right here, we have my bicycle tire pump. We have a box full of various things, some bike parts. We have my lock for whenever my dirt bike is on the outside, you know, just various stuff. We have my bicycle tools, and then we get into the bikes. Typically, I travel with 3 to 4 bikes. We have some storage over here. There's these little like cubbies. They just kind of screw onto the wall. Just a bunch of random stuff in there. Overall, it's super functional, and the main thing is it fits a bunch of bicycles. Without bicycles, I really wouldn't have too much of a reason to do van life, honestly. I think a van is kind of the ultimate mountain bike rig, the ultimate mountain bike riding out of the ultimate mountain bike rig. My bed is actually made out of a custom aluminum platform that I had a friend weld up for me. It is super lightweight. I definitely would recommend an aluminum bed over like a wooden platform bed. Shout out to Scroggs Fabrication. So now that we've covered everything in the van, I want to talk about a few van life concepts. So as you can see in my van, I don't have a bathroom or a shower setup. And the main reason for that is I have a 144 wheelbase, and there's really just not space to fit that in effectively. Luckily, I have a membership at Anytime Fitness, which is where I train my gym back home, and they're literally everywhere. They have the nicest showers. It just doesn't get any better than a nice hot shower in a private bathroom. Going into the gym for a shower, sometimes I feel obligated to do a workout, so it's kind of a win-win. Nobody likes a dirty van lifer. Another concept I want to talk about, and I touched on it earlier in the video, is the overall weight of the van. There are so many people who build these things and they just load them up with all kinds of different wood and materials, and then when their van is done, it ends up weighing like 10,000 pounds, way over the GVWR, and that's a safety hazard, wears out your vehicle. When I built this van, I did everything I could to keep the weight down. I was using 1/4-inch panels on the wall, just like making sure that I didn't overbuild anything, maybe even almost underbuilding things, but when you've built 6 vans, you can kind of know where you have to beef things up and where you want to take advantage of the weight saving. So the total weight of my van before I put my gear in it was 6,800 pounds. I think they're about 5,500 pounds, 5,700 pounds empty. Yeah, 6,800 pounds before there's gear in it. So I think I probably added like 300 to 500 pounds of gear between bikes, all my riding gear, food, water weight. We should be having this conversation a lot more in the van building community. If you have any questions about how I saved weight, feel free to message me, leave a comment, and I'd be happy to respond. And we could chat about your build as well and figure out how we can get the weight down so that it remains drivable. Well, that's it for this van build tour. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm super stoked on how this one turned out. It's been really nice to get to apply all of the skills, all of the mistakes that I've learned from the course of 6 van builds into this one dream van. And yeah, just really thankful for all the support as far as Dometic, Zamp Solar, Flatline Van Co, and yeah, everyone who helped me along the way. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.